Hey, everybody, welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us today. This is a really special show, actually. This is part of our 12 Days of Recruiting event. And we've got Shally Steckerl here with us, the father of sourcing himself. So he's got his iconic background and his pilot's chair with him today. Hey, Shally.
Hey, how's it going?
Good,
That's
good.
right, my
Thank you.
Maverick.
You're Maverick.
What day of the 12 days are we on?
Oh my gosh, I think I've lost count. The last day is the 22nd, Friday.
Okay,
So if we can count backwards, I believe we're on day 9.
day
So
9. Okay.
yeah, day 9. But math was never my best subject in school. So um, okay, well, we are here, everybody, to look at AI, harness AI and automation for optimal efficiency, achieving more with less in your recruitment workflow. Um, just in case you're wondering, everybody will receive a recording of this event as well as the slide deck in about 2 days. It'll be part of your 12 days content. So keep an eye out for that. If you have any questions, just drop them in the Q&A. Shally and I will both be watching that. We'll probably hold them till spots in the show, but if you have a pressing question, we'll interrupt Shally and ask. So thanks, enjoy, and I'm going to hand this over to you, Shally.
All right. Thank you for that. Yeah, let me know if there's a clarification that comes up during presentations through the chat. Otherwise, we can certainly make some time at the end to get into some specifics, especially in appreciation of those that are going to be watching the recording. We want them to see the whole thing and not necessarily be listening to me answering and rambling on about questions. But definitely, if it requires clarification, let me know. So, what do we want to talk about today? Well, I'm actually really, really excited to show you what is going on here with this company, this product called jobin.cloud. I'm grateful to have had a sneak peek into the workings of how the tool was being designed and configured, and I got a special hand-holding walkthrough from some of the chief executives at the company. So I'm very grateful for that opportunity to kind of get a peek at behind the scenes. And the reason I'm so excited about it is because I truly think that there is some revolutionary stuff here that's just been on my wish list and never really before actually come to fruition. So I'm very excited to show you what that looks like. What are we going to talk about? Well, I want to wrap this all around the workflow, because what's so smart about this is, well, two things. There's two really big smartnesses about this. Number one is the entire workflow can be handled, and by entire I mean your entire sourcing, recruiting workflow can be handled inside of one app. Which, as you well know, you've probably, if you, especially if you've heard me present before many times, you'll know that I tend to complain a lot about kind of having to switch different applications and how I really wish I could centralize everything. So that's the big deal here, is that it is all centralized. And that's important because you don't have to spend time and energy and have the propensity for, things kind of getting overlooked, or what I like to refer to as contact collision, where multiple recruiters are contacting the same candidates. All of that is avoided when you have everything centralized in one platform. And as much as we love to use LinkedIn, the reality is that even LinkedIn in and of itself is not exactly a single platform, because we still have our CRM, we still have our ATS, we have other things that we need to utilize and other sources besides LinkedIn. So there really isn't a solution until now that centralizes all of your sourcing and your sequencing and your management of the entire workflow. So this all starts from the concept of having a streamlined, centralized workflow. The second thing that is really paradigm shifting here, aside from the fact that it's all in one location, is that it's truly leveraging what I consider is the best use case for automation. There's a lot of things that we can automate. And from the very, very beginning, even back in the day, maybe as far as 25 years ago, I was automating email sequences by just having tags and moving people from the list of send email 1 to the list of send email 2 and all that, because there was no software that did that. But now we actually have an application that, because of the centralization and because of modern adaptations that originate from the large language models and machine learning, we have the ability to automate sequences with decision trees. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that when we get into that third stage. But essentially, think about it as we're no longer just sending an outreach message to a list. We can now live segment our list based on what's happened to individuals in that list, and we can handle exceptions automatically. So you don't have to worry about creating sublists or tags for lists or any of that. It's all handled by this system. So that combines with the workflow centralization, and it makes for a really magic recipe. So the 4 pieces are the setup and streamlining from the very beginning. So that's your requirements, your pre-search, you're identifying what you're actually going to be looking for, configuring everything, and prepping before you actually do the search. Then you have the second component, which is actually doing the search. And I'll show you a few tools that we can use to streamline that as well. And then the third piece is to execute the sequences, which is now we're sending out our messages and we're trying to establish connections with candidates. But also we are able to, because of the centralization, we are able to automatically score inbound responses so that we can take action as it happens instead of having to wait until the replies come in and then manually do something with each of them. We're able to use auto tagging and auto tracking to immediately put people into subsequent sequences. That's really, really important. So the scoring and sequencing automation. And then finally, we have the component that is, of course, you actually talking to candidates and managing the process and moving people along in the steps or the stages of recruiting. So let's dive into each one of these. We'll start with the first part of it, which is the setup and the streamline. The tool that I'm talking about is jobin.cloud, and there are free and premium tiers for it. Most of what I'll show you today is under the free account, although there are a few things like enriching contacts that you're going to want to pay for the upgrade for. But let's start with setting up the requirements. And for me, one of the most important, if not probably the single most important, critical step is making sure that we know what we're looking for. Because we can spend a lot of time spinning our wheels, talking to the wrong people, sourcing in the wrong places, and all that. So the pre-search and the requirements gathering and the setup is, I believe, absolutely critical. Unfortunately, a lot of folks just kind of gloss over that because they think, oh, I know exactly what I'm looking for, and they start typing in keywords, and they never set up sequences. They didn't set up filters and all that. That's what's really important about this, is that we take care of that. So let me take you over to this tool called Jobin.cloud. When you land on Jobin, the first thing that you will probably see is a dashboard that shows a list of all the activity that's going on in your platform. Now, this is an experimental account for me. So you can see there's some things here that have numbers, others that are still set to 0. I've recently just started testing and playing around with this, so this is not necessarily a production environment. I do have a few jobs here, which I'll share with you, that I can utilize as examples, but you can see that it's, for example, imported my first degree connections here, and I've got some pending invitations and other things like that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up a job, which is, as you saw in the presentation here, setting up the requirements. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new job and set an ideal candidate description, but there's some tools that can assist you with that. Here you can see I have a couple of examples. One of them is the principal engineer. I'm just going to save some time by going directly into that rather than starting a new one, but you would just simply click on add a new job and walk through the process that way. For the sake of expediency, though, I want to show you one that's already partially built out. And we can actually change things here. So, for example, one of the things I want to do is I want to set the ideal candidate criteria. This is what's going to help me while I'm staging. So, for example, if I'm sourcing, if I'm scraping, if I'm using X-ray, if I'm importing CSVs, all of that is going to be impacted by the ideal candidate criteria, because when I add people to this job, when I import them, when I scrape them, when I X-ray them, and they're being added as a pipeline here in this job, they will be graded or scored based on this criteria. There's two ways that you can do this: manually by setting it yourself, or you can use some of the AI assisted or large language model assisted, ChatGPT assisted automation. I'm just going to click on the set ideal candidate criteria first to show you how comprehensive this is. And by the way, you can also analyze the job description from here as well. So you can do it from here, or you can just come in here and start adding it directly. There's a few different features here that I want to direct your attention to. One of them is basically you can do a search that includes criteria such as previous companies. You can include or exclude previous companies. And what's really cool is you can actually paste a list directly in here, and it works. When I was shown this, I was a little skeptical, and I was like, well, how many rows can I actually import? And I was actually very pleasantly surprised. I'll show you real quick here. I'm going to do a little search for my list of competitors here, and I'm just going to grab this list. This is a small list. I've tested out larger lists. Actually, here's an even larger list. So let's go ahead and show you that one, just because I think this is so impressive. What we're going to do is we're going to grab this, and we're going to just add it here and just accept, and boom, it's automatically parsed. This is one of the easiest ways to import a list of companies that I've ever seen. And on top of that, you can also set keyword thresholds that will weigh more or less depending on how you want to weigh these keywords. In this case, they are the current companies. You can do the same thing for current company or past company and so on. Likewise, with job titles, you can paste a list of job titles. You can paste the job description here and have it parsed by the ChatGPT large language model. Then there's a bunch of other criteria, like how big the company should be. So you can set limits for, well, I only want to recruit from small companies or medium companies or large companies. Locations, these could be by country, by region, by postal code, by city, and even down to an address. You can also set industries, not something that I typically use, but can be very useful in some cases, as well as years in the current role, which is different than years of total experience for the candidates. Again, when you're importing, this is going to contribute to the score of those leads as they're being added to the pipeline. Something I haven't seen very often is career level. So this you might know as like seniority. So you have like entry level, which is good for, college, junior internships and so on. You've got experience, mid-level. So this is pretty neat. And it's not just the LinkedIn version. And something I've never seen before is this thing called career path. So think of this as like the function, for example. Are they in sales? Are they in engineering? Are they in finance? So it's the role in general, which is really neat. It's a bigger concept than the job title, and but yet still allows you to filter out when you have positions that are pretty they don't have really hard keywords. Like for example, in sales, it works really well because there's not a lot of specific keywords for sales. Management level, if you have people that are in management, whether it's their first time managing or their mid-level and so on. And then you can also look for their activity as a job seeker. And this is pulling not just from LinkedIn, but also other sites that list this, such as GitHub, for example, open to opportunities. And you can also limit keywords to appear in the summary. Now, this is not just the LinkedIn summary. This is the bio on their profiles in About Me, in Twitter. So it's looking in that section that is right below the name. That is usually where people put the most important things to them in that little section there. A few others you can see here, skills. And you can also segment based on if they're in a particular project. You can add or remove a project. You can say, I don't want people that are in this sequence, or I only want people that are in this sequence. So you can use your own sequences as a way to segment. You can also use activities, like the last time that they were contacted, or when they were added to your list, or whether they have a particular LinkedIn tag. So there's a lot of specialization that you can use here. You can even say, okay, if they have a CV, score them higher. If they don't have a CV, score them lower. Or conversely, if the profile has been fully downloaded or not, have they ever interacted with a message or not? So these are all different things that will change the weight of that particular candidate. And you can then, once again, with the keywords, you can throttle the ranking. So for example, these are companies. Let's say that Amazon is a much more desirable company. I can actually change the throttle on this and specify that I want Amazon, a 4 or a 5, and I want Aspire to be a 2 or 1, and so on. So all of this is infinitely customizable. Or you can just go ahead and import the requisition by clicking on the AI automation. All of that is part of your initial setup. So this is very important because it's weighing inbound candidates no matter how you source, whether you're importing them or scraping them or whatever. One of the neat things that you can do here is when you're setting up a job, you can also actually import a company or an account. So if you are targeting a particular organization, so you can see it's already executed the search here, and I don't have a whole lot of contacts in here, but it started to rank these contacts and it's listing them in order, declining order of best match according to that criteria. You can further reinforce the criteria here, as you can see. So for example, let me zoom in so you can see this a little bit better. With the role title, I can say current or past, and with things like skills, I can actually make those, these are equivalent to Boolean, where it could be either an or it can be an and. If I want to turn this into an and, I change the color to green, and it's now looking for Algolia and Elasticsearch. And the other thing that I can do is I can use ChatGPT to expand the search criteria. For example, in this case, I'm going to do that with Elasticsearch and see what other technologies or terminology ChatGPT returns as similar to that, which will expand my keyword search. Again, this is now filtering on the set of results that are already filtered on the pipeline. So there's two places you can do it. One is to set these up in the job itself, and another is to set these up as filters in the actual search through the pipeline. You can see it's now added a bunch of these, and if any of these are required, I can simply switch them over to a plus like that, and you can actually turn that on or off. You can even, believe it or not, expand them, and you can give them extra weighing. You can weigh any one of these higher or lower individually. So you can see how much more power there is here. You can use ChatGPT to find other keywords, and you can use a score multiplier to add or remove, and it gives you an infinite amount of control over how your matches come back. This is really important because the key to this is you're centralizing everything into one pipeline, and then you're narrowing down that pipeline to the key people that you want to add to your sequencing so that you can have the highest return on investment, faster. So that is the job setup. And I mentioned you can also import a company. You can do that directly from accounts, or you can do that from jobs as well. Let's return to the slides here. I've showed you all these different filters that you can use. So you're going to create the job, you're going to analyze the description, change the keywords to be mandatory or optional, or set the weighing on the keywords. That includes the companies, the job titles, the skills, everything. And you can use ChatGPT integration. The one thing I did not show you is that you can actually find more like this, again, using ChatGPT. So it's using the profile of one individual to build out a filter based on that particular, sorry about that, went to the wrong one. There we go. Okay. Based on that particular individual. So if I'm going to go over to my, looks like it's still processing all those companies. You see the little clock is still, I'm going to show you later on in a minute here what you can do to look at that operation monitor. So I'm not sure if I want to click on candidates yet. Maybe I can. Okay. All right. let's go ahead and look through this list. Okay, so this is my pipeline within that job. So I have the job and I have the pipeline. And I wanted to show you, find me more like this. That's where I can open up a particular profile and I can use this profile to find other people like it. And since I have you here, I can show you also that we have access directly to their LinkedIn profile, their sales navigator. We can Google them, we can go to their website, etc. But I wanted to share with you that you can actually use a profile as a sample search, which will create a whole new filter to apply to that criteria. Now, here's where things are. Up until here, this is all included in the free package. But if you want to enhance the data, that does cost money. Every time that they do a lookup, they have to go out and pay vendors that provide that information. So for that, you do want to upgrade to a paid package that includes enhancement with contact information. But that's the extra piece. Up until here, that we haven't really done that yet. So okay, let's go back to, whoa, sorry about that. Not quite sure what happened there. Let me reset that. There we go. Okay. And so, as I said before, you can click on a company and it'll import the company. That becomes an account. An account is like a company, and you can actually use that to do other things, like, for example, import people into that company for contacts into the company and so on, which brings us to the next stage, and that is the scraping and sourcing. Now, there's a few different things we can do within the platform. Again, remember, this is all centralized. The first of those that I want to share with you is the brand new People Finder. This has just been released, and it's what I was telling you about before that I had been given kind of early access to. You'll see it on the left-hand side here. It's called People Finder, and it is completely free. So the People Finder is part of the free tier. Just clicked on it and taking a minute to load here. There we go. Okay. So this is an index of here's the number right there, 3.2 billion profiles that have been categorized and indexed by jobin.cloud. Again, no contact information. If you want to do that, you have to enhance it with a paid tier, and that's where you use your People Finder enhancement credits. But what's really cool about this is the People Finder has its own database. So you could source from LinkedIn, you can import a CSV, you can do X-ray searches, or you can just search, I shouldn't say or, and you can also just search their own internal data. And like with many others, you can see here job title, company name, industry, location, skills. There's fewer filters here because this is kind of the short list, but if you click on all filters, you'll see all of the power behind this. Just as before, you can see current company or any company, as I showed you before, company size, career level, all of that. Even things like, do they have any certifications? And there is segmentation for diversity by gender here. Let me show you real quick here if we can let's do a search, for example, on tax manager. There we go. So that tells me, one of the things that really impressed me is that when you type in a search, it automatically kind of pulls up the estimated number of results. So it's telling me that there's about 44,000 people in their database that have the title tax manager specifically. Now that's just that one title. I can expand it by clicking on that blue icon, which will bring back other job titles, right? Or I can, it's not necessarily what I wanted to do. I just wanted to show you that. Here we go, tax manager. Then I can add a list of companies, for example. We could do PwC. We could do KPMG. And check this out. We can add other similar companies. So again, I don't want to necessarily do that. Let's just limit it to PwC for now. That's still quite a bit. So there's 225,000 people from PwC in the system and 44,000 with tax manager. However, when you combine these two, it's a subset of that. Let's also add to this location. You can do a country, you can do a region, and so on. And then let's try, actually, I'm just going to stick to that for now and go ahead and execute. See what kind of data I get. So about 839 results. Remember, this is a combination of US and PwC and Tax Manager. And now I can start seeing what kind of results I'm getting. And based on this, I can then adapt my filters until I basically get it to where I want it. Once I have it where I want it, then the next step is to either import one at a time, which is probably be a little bit tedious, but if you're really looking for that perfect candidate, you can just do it onesie twosie, or you can click on the plus symbol, which at the time right now will import 100 profiles into your pipeline. It doesn't do anything else unless you've created sequences and all that, but it will import the first 100. That is presently. Now they're expanding on that. I know they're going to be adding the ability to import more at a time, but for now it's just the first 100. You can then go back and get the next 100 and so on. So if you're happy with your results, you can go ahead and do that. If not, now is the time to actually continue, adding some more criteria. And the cool thing is you can actually assign tags directly here. So these could be activity tags, these could be custom tags. What happens is with these tags, you can then create automation at the time of sequencing. So as they're imported from the People Finder into your pipeline for that job, which you would configure here. So let's choose this. I don't have a tax manager search here, but just put them into like, I don't know, this one. So these 100 will be imported into that. I can then assign a particular tag. And that tag can then inform what happens in the sequences, which I'll show you in a minute. I guess I should have set up a tax manager search there. But anyways, so this is the people search, or the People Finder, which will source from their current internal data. Now, you'll see that this comes from LinkedIn, but they also have a bunch of other sources. I'll show you a PowerPoint slide with all the different sources that they utilize. It's not just LinkedIn. There's quite a bit. Of course, there's enough information on LinkedIn that it usually helps to enhance a profile. So that's the People Finder. When you have activities set up or sequences set up from the People Finder, you can actually create sequences based on what information is available for that profile. So if they have an email address, then they can be sent the email sequence. If they have a mobile number, they can be sent to the stages for calling. If they have LinkedIn, they can be sent to the in-mail or direct message stages. I'll show you all that in a minute. So this actually gives you the ability to segment based on what type of information is available for that profile. Did they come from Recruiter? Did they come from Sales Navigator, etc.? And one thing I didn't tell you is as soon as you click on these, let's go forward to the next one, you'll notice that it thinks for a minute. What it's actually doing is it's updating real time. You saw that for a minute there. You see that where it says real time updating. So you are getting, unlike with every other tool I've ever seen, you are getting the actual right now version of this profile. Yes, you're finding the profile based on their already existing database, but the moment that you click on it to view it, it is updating it real time, which is very different than all the other tools that I've seen out there where it's showing you, whether it's a few weeks or a few months old, it's showing you that version that's archived or saved in the cache. This is very, very different. If you wanted to, you could automatically enrich if you have a paid plan, or you can choose to not do that. That can be done from here, and then import them one at a time or import them in batches. There's also a plan, I've been told, in the next few days, air quotes, so very, very soon, a plan to add a panel that will allow you to create your own Boolean strings. So if you want to have even that much more level of control, and the filters that are here by role, title, and skills aren't enough, you actually want to have full control and create your own Boolean, especially if you want to copy and paste from other platforms or from your spreadsheets or whatever, that is going to be added. So you'll be able to just drop a search string that you've already designed into a panel. That doesn't exist yet, but they will be adding that very, very, very soon. Now let's move on to LinkedIn extraction, which I think is just absolutely amazing. This is mind-blowing, everything that you can do with it. So I'm going to show you a few things here. Not exactly sure why it does that. Kind of like super fast scrolling, but I want to show you this. So we'll go to LinkedIn import. Now, what you see here is just the about. None of these are actually, going to import anything, because all of this depends on having the extension. This is still free. So if you have the Jobin extension and you go into LinkedIn, you can do any one of these actions from LinkedIn with the extension. So let me recap these for you. You can automatically import all of your first degree connections. I've already done that. You can see that that's what this is. So all of my first degrees are imported. Great. I can literally source my own network right off the bat. And there is a way that you can search for just your first degree and so on. I can also import one particular profile by just simply browsing to it. Now I can turn on or off the ability to automatically import, unlike with other systems where you have to click a button to actually import. With this system, you are able to automatically import them when you scan through. So you can either do it from your regular vanilla free LinkedIn or from Recruiter, so that when you browse a profile, if you've got the Jobin extension configured, you can set it up so that it will automatically update if you want to. And this is the important part about this, is that you can turn that on or off. The reason for that is you may just be kind of looking around and you might not want to import every profile that you look at. But if you're in sourcing mode like me, I block out a chunk of time, like an hour or a couple of sourcing sets. And during that time, everything I'm doing is going into a project. So if you're doing that, you can create a automatic workflow that will bring this particular person directly into whatever project or pipeline that you're working on right now. So you select the pipeline. I'm not going to do that right now. And you can even add tags. So you can customize the tags, and everyone that you browse will automatically, you don't have to click anything. You don't have to do anything. You literally just browse it. So you can browse. Imagine how much faster you can work if you don't have to click on import or download PDF or extract or any of those other things. You can literally just do it right from here. Now, notice it will take you to the profile in Jobin if you want to see it. But that's kind of a little neat shortcut. If you don't want to go look for that person in the pipeline, it'll take you already, to them. So you can see that it actually did indeed import. So let's go back to our import contacts. Okay. So basically browse and automatically import. Then the next thing is you can import a set of search results. A search, basically. So whether it's a project, you can search inside of a project, or it's just a brand new search, it allows you to import the entire thing. So if I went over here and I did a brand new search for, let's say, we'll do Braze and then software engineer. I actually do have a job set up for that. That's probably a little bit too many profiles. So let me narrow this down by location. I'll just do United States and see how many I get. Or how much fewer I get. Okay, 1,700, that's still a little high. Maybe I can do software or software engineer here. So let's do software engineer up there, and then I can delete it or remove it from the keywords. But I still want to keep my Braze down here. Braze is an application. Let's see if that's a little bit better. Okay, that's better. So I've got 800. I can now actually use Jobin to extract all of these. Now there are some, you can throttle this. There are some limits to, not limits, but you can set limits. You can say only import the first 10, the first 20, the first whatever. The reason for that is if you want to work in batches, you don't want to, absorb 1,000 profiles into your list. You can easily control how that works. And there's also a little bit of a time delay. It's surprisingly fast, but there's a little bit of time delay. So if you went in here and went nuts and put in 1,000, believe me, I tried it. It will work, but it takes longer. So you could just start with maybe, I don't know, the first 50. And the neat thing is if you started with the first 50, then later on when you come back, you can skip the first 50 and go to the next 50. So you can essentially save your place. I'm just going to let's do the first 50. And again, you can automatically tag them. And you can add them to a particular pipeline. I do actually have one for this. So what's going to happen here, I'm just going to hit Start Import. Now, here's the thing. You need to leave this open. Don't make the mistake of closing this window because the extension is actually running on top of, and then when you get a confirmation, then you can do something else. Now, you can go to another tab and use another tab, but don't close the tab. So now those 50 are added to my Braze project. Where did it go? There it is. And I can see my candidates. There's 93. If I went back to my search and I wanted to import the next batch, then I can simply say, okay, I want the next 50, but skip the first 50. And once again, Braze and add to the pipeline and start import. You'll see it's going to skip forward 50, then start with those. It takes a minute. This is where I told you if you do like 1,000, it's going to take a little bit longer, but with only 50 or 100, it's pretty fast. So now I can go back here and refresh this. There is a little bit of a, I don't want to say lag, but there's a little bit of a delay as it actually, it imports them, so they're here, but it is actually updating them. So it will, in the background, it will enhance that information with the most current version of those profiles. So don't expect it to import all 100 and be like immediately fully populated. There's a bit of a, there's a few seconds to a few minutes as it enhances those profiles. So I can go in and see all, oops, sorry, there we go. All 142, and they'll start to load up here. They are ranked, but I did not, in this particular case, I did not create filters or rankings in the job. So that's why they all have question marks. So if you want to see how that works, basically you would go into the job itself and set the ideal candidate profile. I'm not sure why it's still working on that. Let me go back to that and see. There we go. Now it's refreshed. So I never had this set up, which is why I wasn't showing. Now I can, I'll do, where is the skills? Come on, skills. Well, software, let's do software engineer. And I'm going to expand that. There's also like, oh, I don't know why that happened there. That's interesting. I think I combined two jobs. Try that again. Software engineer. Okay, and there's also an email engineer, believe it or not. I've seen that. Let's see if that gives me some other interesting results. No, I don't know why it's reverting back. I think I messed something up. Let me try this again. Email engineer. And save. Maybe I just need to save it and come back to it. So it's now processing because it's applying that to all of the 152. See that it finished. This is the operations view here, where you can see how far along in that recent order that you gave it. It looks like it's complete. So I can then go to the jobs now and look at the candidates. And they should now have the scoring. You can see here some of them. Well, actually, none of these have. They have a donut because they don't have email engineer. What you would see here is a fitting index or a fit index that shows how strong a match are. The strongest matches are up on top. So the more keywords they match, the more the bar is filled, and that's how you do that scoring. Okay, so let me go back to sourcing and continue showing the LinkedIn. So we talked about that's a search result. You can also import an entire group. So you would go into LinkedIn and find a group. Let's talk about a group like tax managers or tax management. And we'll go to a group. Zooming in here. Let's see, Oracle tax management consultants. Here we go. So if you were a member of this group, I'm not, but if you were, you would be able to import all the members. I am actually a member of a few groups, so let me see if I can find one of my groups here. Darn it. Actually, let me go back to my profile here. So these are my pages. These are my groups. Let's see. I'm going to pick on one of these. Oh, Golang. Here we go. That's a good one. So this is a group I would be able to browse to the members and import the entire group. Again, it still does it in batches. I mean, you could increase the number, but it's going to import all of those. So let's add this to my principal search, start import, and you can see it's absorbing the profiles. So that's how easy it is. So you can do it with individual profiles, you can do it with search results, you can do it with groups. This one's 100, so it's taking a little bit longer than before. You can also do it with event attendees. So if you registered or signed up for a LinkedIn event, you can go into the event and it will import all of the participants that said that they were attending. Likewise, you can bulk import post participants. So if there's a post, a LinkedIn post where people are responding, like for example, if maybe you post a job and you say, hey, do you know anybody that might be interested in this? And there's some replies that say, yeah, I know so-and-so. It will automatically parse all of those replies. Saves a ton of time because normally you would have to manually go into each one of those profiles and add them to a project, etc. This will just import all of them. And last but not least, my absolute favorite is you can actually import an entire company. That's right. You heard that right. So let's say that I wanted to, let me find a company like, let's try Snapchat. Oops. There we go, Snap. So here's a company page. I'm going to view the page and the people. And it's literally that easy. You can narrow down your criteria if you want, right? You can say only United States and maybe even, like say, all right, I want people that are in the engineering function or computer science. What happened to my other window? There it is. Where's engineering? Oh, there it is. All right, so I've got people in the engineering function in the United States at Snap. There's 1945 right there. Then I go up to the job and extension, and I can also, by the way, since I'm here, I can actually add this as a company, which adds it as a company and account, but I can import the people from this profile as well. How cool is that? So let me go ahead and update the company and principal search engineer. There we go. Hello. Looks like it updated it. Okay, so now I can go in here and go to accounts. There it is. Check that out. It's been imported. And then I can enhance it by importing all the employees. It's already grabbed a few, but I can click on this and get the rest of them. So now, I don't know how many there are. 6. Oh, right. I didn't narrow this down. I probably should narrow this down with United States. There it is. And what was the other thing I said? Engineer. There we go. That's a little bit better because you don't want to import maybe you do want to import everybody. That's fine. But if you don't want to import everybody, you can still filter. And there you go. I'll add them to that. It's going to do the first 100. We'll give that a second.
Hey, Shally.
Yeah.
I just wanted to pop in and let you know we've got about 10 minutes and we do have 3 questions.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, this is almost done. So go ahead. Let's take one of those questions while this populates.
Okay, okay, and I'm not sure if you'll be able to answer this live, but
There you go. See,
I do have the answer. Oh, there you are.
there it is. Yep. Go ahead.
So Ira asked, can you use this in 2 other ways to find prospective new recruiting clients, and can it be used as a job seeker?
Yes, and yes, absolutely. It doesn't really matter what you end up doing. Well, I shouldn't say that. What you do with your contacts is up to you, right? So you can create a job that is looking for a job, or you can create a job that is looking for business leads. And then your criteria, your sourcing criteria here in the People Finder could be, director level people that might be potential customers. So you'll source them and add them to that job, and you can set up sequences and everything, which is what I was going to show you next. And you can do that as a candidate looking for work, and you can also do that as a business developer trying to find leads, because ultimately the message that you send out is up to you. So however you bring them in and organize them, you can customize that. So yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I'll save the next 2 until the end.
All right. So that is all of the different ways that you can import from LinkedIn. It's just exceptional. I don't think anybody else has ever put all of those together. So you can source from their data, from Jobin's data for free, or you can import. Again, all of this is free. You can import from LinkedIn by doing an import of search, group members, events, participants, or everybody at a company. It automatically dedupes. And then essentially from here, you can then convert these into sequences. Another thing that's really cool is because they import both the ID and the URL, it is capable of resolving LinkedIn Recruiter links, which is really neat. So if you imported a LinkedIn Recruiter link, it'll resolve it to the regular LinkedIn ID. And you're able to send them, in mail as well as email, as well as direct messages and so on, which will be part of the sequences that I'll show you in just a second. The site search, there's a lot to it. And once you get the slides, you can click here for a list of all the additional commands. But essentially the site search is kind of like a shortcut to source from a number of different websites, like for example, sourcing LinkedIn profiles off the web, or Twitter profiles, or Instagram profiles, Indeed resumes, profiles from GitHub, and all that. So you can see this is a pretty long list. It's not limited to just this, though. If you click on the little icon in the middle, you can add any website that you want, and it will use Bing to scan that website. So if I, for example, wanted to do, let's just go ahead and do something like GitHub here, and I want to look for Golang, and Algolia. I don't know if I'm going to find anybody, but let's just give it a try. Yeah, I didn't find anybody. How about I don't get too greedy and just do Golang? That's probably a little easier. Still, oh, wow, okay. I'm just going to do skills then. And once again, here with skills, you can also, do and or. So let's try that one. It should be nothing. What? I know there's at least a few. Let's try Stack Overflow. There we go. All right. So don't know why I wasn't getting any. It could have been something I did, but here we can see from Stack Overflow, it is coming up. And so with the extension, I can then go in here and import it. Now, what it's importing is the LinkedIn URL. So they do have to have a LinkedIn URL for the time being. They're working on being able to import more non-homogeneous data. But as you can imagine, that's kind of a big ask. So it's something they'll be using machine learning to do. But right now, though, you can import this list as long as those people have profiles. So this is a quick and easy way to extract results from the same kind of site colon search that you would normally do. Then we also have, also quick tip here, you can actually if you click on search faces here, what it'll do is it'll import profiles from image search. So that's where you have, like, for example, let's do, actually, I'll do that and I'll just use the same search. There we go. So it does the face search, which is kind of a neat little shortcut. Pretty cool, huh? All right. Then there's the ability to import CSVs. A lot of different tools out there can import CSVs, frankly. So it's not like, this is a unique feature, but what's really interesting about it is how easy it is to import a CSV. So if you go to CSV Import here, basically all you have to do is drag and drop. I have this sample list here that it's a couple hundred records, and I'm going to show you just how easy it is. Keep in mind that with a lot of others, you have to actually map the fields, or you have to create the CSV the way they want you to. You have to download their template or use it, whatever. I'm talking about some other tools there where they kind of require you to put things in a particular format. But here, you saw how easy it is. I just drag and drop, and then all I need to do is map the fields, like, for example, email to email. So I click on email, and I click on email. First name to first name, last name to last name. By the way, once I map it, every time I upload a CSV with the same column headers, it's already automatically mapped. So I don't have to remap it. But you see how easy it is, company to company. School is not in here, so I can go to other fields. I can actually search fields as well if I want to. So I can do school to school. Let's see, LinkedIn to LinkedIn. And you don't have to import something if you don't have it, right? So here's phone. I'll probably just use mobile, because pretty much most of these are going to be mobile. So phone number, mobile. And title. There is a shortcut here. I mean, you can look at all the fields all together, or you can just look at the main ones and so on. But you can see how easy it is to just map things. I'm not going to, I think I already have email. I'm not going to do the rest of these, but you can see how easy it is. Then I click on Start Import, and boom, it absorbs it. If there's a LinkedIn URL, it'll update it and stuff like that. So super easy way to import, and it maps it. So next time you have a similar import, it will actually not even, it'll just ask you to confirm, but you don't have to do the mapping all over again. You can then overwrite the data, or you can manually confirm, or you can keep the original and not overlap. So you can either overwrite it, you can ignore the changes, or you can ask manually. I'm just going to overwrite it, and you can see how quick it is. Boom. That's pretty fast, right? There it is. Whoop. That's the list I just imported. Sweet, huh? Okay, so then from here, you can actually also automatically add tags and put into pipelines, so that you can then create substages or sequences. And that's the last part that I want to share with you, is the sequencing and scoring. So what's really important about this is that you have the ability to do multi-channel sequencing. So let me show you. If we go to a sequence here, you can see that you can create a sequence that includes all kinds of different activities based on conditions or triggers. So for example, you can say if they have a LinkedIn account, then connect on LinkedIn. But if not, oops, sorry, wrong one. I needed to move this one to the other side. So if they have, I'll add that over here. Connect on LinkedIn. Where's the connect on LinkedIn? Send email, connect on LinkedIn. There we go. And then I can remove this one. All right, there we go. So that's more accurate. All right, if they have a LinkedIn account, then connect on LinkedIn. If not, then send an email. You see how that works? So I can choose every lead that gets entered into my pipeline will automatically go into one of these sequences depending on if they match the criteria. And there's other criteria as well. So not only is it, you can send an email, you can send a connection request on LinkedIn, you can send a LinkedIn message, you can withdraw an invitation, you can update their LinkedIn profile, you can assign a tag, right? So you can then tag it or move it to another stage. So you can essentially have nested stages. You can have a stage that moves something to another stage. Like, for example, if they don't have a phone number, so let's say condition must have mobile phone number. And if they don't have a phone number, then they go into the, we'll make this the assign to the pipeline called make phone call or something like that, right? And if they do have a phone number, then you can send text message. Now, texting is not yet supported, but it's being added. So it's a feature that's going to be added shortly. Right now, you can do all of the things that I just showed you here. So you can do email, connection, LinkedIn message, which is either an in-mail or a DM. Again, you can have a condition. If they're LinkedIn recruiter, send an email. If they're not LinkedIn recruiter, then send a message. If they're in a group, then send a message. If not, etc. And then you can also have time conditions, like, for example, okay, after email 1, wait a day, wait 2 days. Then if they haven't replied, send email 2 or send LinkedIn message or send connection request. Can you imagine being able to combine in one sequence the ability to email someone, wait a few days, send a connection request, wait a few days, send a direct message, wait a few days, send an email, wait a few days, and so on. And then you can also move them to another stage or add a tag, like, didn't respond or etc. And all of that based on logic that you can use here, directly manipulate. So here's a few ideas. For example, if they have an email, then send this. If not, send an email. If they have this tag or they don't have this tag, send email 1. Otherwise, send email 2. So if they have the tag A, then they can get email A. If not, they get email B. If it's an open profile, send them a DM. If it's not an open profile, send them an IM, right? If it's a LinkedIn premium account, send InMail 1. Otherwise, send InMail 2. If they're open to work, send InMail 1. Otherwise, send InMail 2. These are all different ways that you can think of customizing the messaging. You can even have the same sequence send 3 different messages depending on if they're first, second, or third degree away from you. How cool is that? And the bonus that really just sealed the deal for me when I was going through the demo of this, you can actually do send on behalf of. In other words, you can execute commands based on other users in your organization. So when you go to send an email or send a LinkedIn connection request, you can switch to other users in your company, as long as they're users of, they're on your job in. So you can email or in-mail as you, as your hiring manager, as whatever, right? You can have a multi-stage sequence that does a variety of steps. If at any point they reply, then they exit the sequence, and you can have them tagged or added. You can have, if they reply, they can be assigned to another list of people that are ready for phone screen, and so on. The sky's the limit as to what you can do with all these different sequencing. Finally, the scoring is essentially what I'd already showed you. So the pipeline based on that job is automatically going to be scoring the people as they come in. Now, I unfortunately did not set ideal candidate criteria, so I should have done that. And so what that means is that these all have like blanks on them. But if I had set that threshold, you would see the scoring at work here. And you can even have sequences based on scoring. So if they have a score of 0, don't send them a message. If they have a score of more than 5, send them this message. If they have a score of less than 5, send them this other message. So that's how infinitely adaptable the system is. So to wrap things up, there's a couple of other kind of management things that you can do. Something that's really impressive is from the little bubble icon up here, you can handle all of the actions throughout your account. So you can reply to emails and LinkedIn messages, both in-mails and regular messages. So this is like a centralized location. You can reply on behalf of your other users or yourself. You can even just filter it to only the ones that are unanswered. And it essentially becomes like your centralized command and control. No longer do you have to go log into this account or that account or whatever. It's all managed from here. That's the little chat icon there. And another thing you can do is you can manage your pipeline based on Kanban, kind of like Trello or whatever. So let's go to the principal search engineer here, and you can see I can drag people from assigned means that they were assigned to this pipeline, to screened which is I reviewed the resume and contacted, evaluated, etc. By the way, all of this here is customizable. So you don't have to even live with just this. You can go into that particular job and change the stages. You can call them whatever you want. You can move them. You can add them. You can have a reason for exit. Unsuccessful, you can have different, like if they exit because they said no interest, then go put them on this tag or whatever. So it's literally a dream come true with all the customization. It can be a little overwhelming because there's so much customization, but the upside is you can do things that you could never do at scale. So this is massively scalable, multi-stage, multi-sequence, centralized communication with a centralized sourcing platform that allows you to find people in their list, LinkedIn, websites, imports, and even your own contacts. So in conclusion, that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, now would be a good time. I'm happy to stay on. I think there were a couple. And remember, you'll be getting all of this along with the recording as part of your 12 days content. Feel free to reach out to me individually. I'm still playing with it and learning and, essentially trying to make it break. So let me know if you have any questions.
We do have 4 questions, actually. So if anybody has any additional questions, please drop those in there. I know we are at time. We're about 3 minutes after. Shally, how much time do you have to answer?
I can stay for a few, 10, 15 minutes. I wanted to make sure that the recording had everything in it. Okay. So I'm happy to stay on for a few to answer questions.
Cool beans. All righty. So Tim asks, does Jobin work with Sales Navigator?
Yes.
Nice.
It's one of the conditions. So you can filter based on if they came from Sales Navigator. You can import from Sales Navigator. You can send sequences as Sales Navigator. So when you send a message, you can send it as an in-mail from Recruiter, as an in-mail from Sales Navigator, or as a direct message, or as a connection request. There's all the different options you can do. So yes, if you have a Sales Navigator account, not only can you import and tag, but you can also send messages from that account.
Nice. Okay, well, Ira asks, when scraping LinkedIn, what info does it retrieve? And I know we covered some of that, but just to reiterate.
So as you can see here, this was the company scrape that I did, where I just essentially imported the first however many Snap employees. So I'm gonna show you what this looks like. If I click on any of these, it'll open up over here, but this is just a summary view. You can actually click on the open profile and see the entire full-on, with a linked account and all the inside management. It's got word cloud for skills, and all that other stuff is in here. So you have essentially the sort of brief abbreviated view. You can click on it and go to LinkedIn or Sales Navigator or Google, or go to their website. You can see any events that happen, like that you added them or emailed them, their sequences, and so on, all from here. And you can also do more actions. Like, for example, you can auto update, you can remove the connection, you can send a connection, you can search similar profiles, and this will now find other Jonah Williams. This is that filter I told you about. So it's essentially the answer to your question is the full LinkedIn profile, when it's scraped, is imported. That's why it takes, when you first do it, you see the names populate right away, but it takes a few minutes for all of the rest of the information, which includes mapping the location, importing all their experience and their skills and their courses and all that. You can see everything is in here, plus whatever personal information you add. So this is now your record on your system of that profile. So it imports whatever it's there, and if it's on Crunchbase or Stack Overflow or GitHub or whatever, it imports that as well.
Nice, thank you. And on the same topic, well, sort of, are there any limitations on number of sequences saved to pipeline candidates and saved to? I think we're missing a word there. But are there any limitation on number of sequences saved to pipeline candidates?
Not that I've run into. That would probably be a good question to ask the developers that are, I think, on the call. Okay. But there's not really, you can add as many sequences as you can imagine up until, I'm sure there's a logical limit where there's probably so many sequences that you don't want to be looking through all of them. But if it's within a sequence, there's no limit. You can have logic that says, if this, then that, and you can have multiples. You can see there's a true and false for every one of these. So if they don't connect on LinkedIn within 7 days, then you can send them a reminder and then move them to an email, and then all that. So there's no limit to how much you can actually, how deep you can go. So I'm not sure if the question is how many sequences separately or how many steps in a sequence. I think that the answer to how many sequences is there may be a logical limit, but the answer to how many steps in a sequence is none. It's up to your imagination. It does recognize, by the way, it does recognize when they reply. So any reply stops the sequence. If they reply, it will not continue unless you have a step that assigned them to another. So if they reply, then assign to sequence, and it starts that sequence, that's the only way it will continue. Otherwise, that one sequence, when they reply to that sequence, that one stops.
Okay, that makes sense. We did get an answer from Mikkel. He said there are actually no limits to number of sequences.
So you can have as many as your brain can hold in your, yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a lot. I mean, but there's a point at which you probably have too many things going on.
And
but anyway, yeah.
Lucerna says, thank you. She loves this. So just thought I'd pop that in there. Thank you.
I love it. I love that you love it, but I love it too.
It's cool. It's really cool. Oh, and last question. Can you set task reminders?
It's part of the sequences, yeah.
Okay.
So there are, in here, you can add steps that, where you can do certain things like assign tasks and stuff like that. And that's where, if you assign that, it'll go into, so for example, a good use of that would be, because there's no way to automatically dial out, which I've been told is on the roadmap, but not, it's if you realize it's very difficult to actually do voice over IP dial out without having the user itself do it. But that would be a really good example of adding a reminder. Like, for example, if they don't reply to all of your messages, then at the end, instead of just saying end, you can have a reminder that moves them to a new list that says, these are the people you should call. And then it assigns that. So it's essentially creating like a subsequence of people that never responded that you should call. It just won't be able to dial out. There is a hack if you want to. Most computers have the ability to click to call if you set it up as a mapping, so that when you click on a phone number, it recognizes it a phone number and it'll dial out. Like on a Mac, it'll dial out using FaceTime, and on a Windows, it'll dial out using a connected phone. That's technically not automated, but it does click to call, which is kind of that's the hack that I use, because I haven't found anybody that actually lets me dial out without going through all the consumer laws and doing a call list and all that other stuff.
Very cool. Thank you so much. And we're just getting lots and lots of thank yous. Carol said this is the best tool she's seen in years. So
yep, me too.
Very cool. Very cool. And thank you to Jobin for giving this to us. We're so glad to, it's kind of an honor to get to present this to our audience. So thank you so much. We are at 2:10. I am going to stop the recording, but before we do that, thanks everybody for being here with us today. Shally, that was very thorough. That was really cool. I wish I could play around with it. I might hit Jobin up and see if they'll let me play with the tool.
Yeah, cool. Definitely.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. You have a wonderful holiday if you celebrate. If you're done with your holidays, thank you for being part of our 12 days of recruiting campaign. That's always, we look forward to that. We build up to that at the end of the year. So it's always nice to sign off our RD year with that.
Happy New Year, y'all.
Happy New Year.
Bye-bye, 2023.
Yeah, for real. Bye.
See ya.
See you later.
Bye.
I am going to just turn this off.